Well, we can talk about eating disorders on a continuum. And in terms of diagnosing someone with an eating disorder, we have three major categories: anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and a third category, diagnostic category, that's called eating disorders not otherwise specified. And if you have the diagnosis, it's abbreviated EDNOS. If you have that diagnosis, it doesn't mean that you don't have as life-threatening or as serious of a disorder. It simply means that you might not have met all of the diagnostic criteria for anorexia or for bulimia, but you still have something very serious and significant going on in terms of issues with food or weight or size. An example would be someone is supposed to be about 15% below normal body weight to be considered anorexic. Well, if they started out at 200 pounds and they've lost 80 pounds in a really short period of time, and they're just on their dive down, from a weight perspective, they don't meet the criteria for anorexia, but all the behaviors look like anorexia. When I first started working with eating disorders, which is probably close to 20 years ago, we really thought it had to do with family dynamics primarily and with control issues. But a lot of the current research is showing us that there are some genetic factors, that eating disorders definitely occur within family systems. If you have someone in your family who has had an eating disorder, you're at much higher risk to develop it yourself. But we're also finding some neuropsychological information that indicates certain people are definitely more at risk for developing an eating disorder. And there are some imbalances in neurotransmitters and chemicals in the brain that would sort of set someone up to be more likely to develop an eating disorder. We talk about eating disorders being multi-determined. There isn't one thing that causes or leads someone into an eating disorder. And we break that into probably four categories: psychological factors, which has to do with the person's own biology, their own personality, their own characteristics; social characteristics or social qualities, and that involves the culture, that involves what are the ideals of beauty, what are the messages the media is sending out as far as how do we define beauty in this age, which differs from one period of time to another. And then the other category is interpersonal. If there are really strained personal relationships for an individual, if there's divorce in the family and there's a lot of pain or grief, if there's difficulty maintaining friendships. So trouble within relationships can play a large part in it. And then the fourth reason would be what we talked about just a minute ago in terms of what is happening in the person's brain genetically. We have multiple triggers or factors that play into it, but what we're learning right now that we haven't known before is probably the brain is the biggest, most important issue when it comes to ending up with an eating disorder. There's really good news in that for parents because they have traditionally been blamed. You know, is it an over-controlling, over-involved mother, an under-involved father? So parents are a little off the hook with this new research, and there's also a relief for the individual who develops the eating disorder because it's not about choice, it's not about, you know, you are causing this, just eat, just get over it. That if we can really locate research that shows us there's something happening biochemically or neurochemically in the brain then we're not looking or blaming the individual, that this is a choice you're making. What we often hear with our eating disorder clients is that it does become an issue of control often. It's not so much about food. Food becomes sort of the battleground. But for a lot of people, they will tell you, I eat more to deal with emotional issues. It's an emotional eating problem. Or I don't eat to gain some sense of control in my life. Like maybe it feels like everything else is out of control. What's happening in my family? What's happening in relationships? People are making decisions for me. But what I do with food is one place where I can feel like I've got control.